Okay, welcome everyone. This is Sachin Karnik here. Today is the 16th of October 2024. I want to welcome you all to the Foundations of Angel Wing Technical Workshop. Please do keep in mind that these workshops are a bit technical. They do require some contemplation, and I will try to explain things as clearly as possible. This entire series that we're doing twice a month is based on the 813-page book called The Foundations of Angel Wing Self-Mastery, Volume 1. All of our audios regarding this, as they are being recorded on a regular basis, are available on the Angel Wing podcast channel. They'll also be available on YouTube's, and all the slides will be available in the near future. All right, so with that, I'm going to continue from where we were last time. Just as a quick background, this particular volume that we're talking about, that is Foundations of Angel Wing Volume 1, has many research ideas to present the notion of the self and the self-mastery concept, that I can master myself into the highest states of human life. But to unfold that idea and to unfold that possibility from a more academic, more research, and a more psychologically technical perspective is what we're attempting here. So please do make notes and comments and whatnot. You can interrupt me if you want to. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to speak for a good 35, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. But if you do have questions or comments in between, please ask. And that's fine. And then we can get into a discussion about it, or you can wait towards the end and I can stay, even after 8 o'clock. It's perfectly fine. So in the beginning part of this book, about the 30 pages or so are an introduction written by Dr. CHETANA KRIPALU. So, and we kind of covered just briefly that introduction last time. Today, we're diving into the very first passage of the book. And this is the first passage right here. You'll notice that each of these paragraphs are quite dense. So I'm going to break it up into smaller pieces to really understand, and so that I can try to present it, and then we'll kind of go from there. I'm going to read this first, and we'll go step by step. So the intricacies of selfhood and subjectivity. This is our subject today. This is our topic today. The notion of the self encapsulates an individual positioned at the focal point of their introspective cognition. This idea, grounded in consciousness studies, is pivotal in understanding the complex workings of the human mind. It's imperative to acknowledge that the comprehension of the self is inherently prejudiced, as it epitomizes a subject's intrinsic reference to its own existence. I know it's a mouthful and it's a bit dense. Let's try to break it up a little bit. Let's look at the first sentence. Well, before we look at the first sentence, let's look at the title. So this is not about my covering just a lot of information. I really would like all of you to, really stay with me here. And if something is not clear, something doesn't make sense, or you want to make a comment, or just please interrupt and ask, because I don't want to go too fast and then it'll get confusing. Point number 1, look at the title. The intricacies of selfhood and subjectivity. What does that mean? What is that? What is selfhood? This is the basic question. Who am I? And the subjective experience of the me, who I am. Now, selfhood is the real question, that before we can get to self-mastery, what is it that we are trying to master? The Tuesday evening personal transformation program, we've done 41 weeks now, is the systematic application process to reach self-mastery. It's a multi-tiered and multi-year process. Okay, but these presentations are the conceptual backbone, the theoretical backbone on each of Angel Wing's foundational principles. So the first point is about selfhood. When I see myself, when I look in the mirror, we're going to give some examples here. I stand in front of a mirror and what do I see? I say, oh, this is Sachin. Okay. I see a body. I see a reflection of me. Is that who I am? Well, yes, in some sense, certainly. I mean, that's kind of who I am. But 5 minutes before that point, what was I? Am I something different at every point on the timeline? Is the body changing constantly? Yes. Every second the body is changing. There's reactions going on. So is the body me? But the body has changed so much. So then logically we can say that this body, yes, this body is, I have a sense that that's me, but it's changing constantly. Look at the shape, the form, there's so many aspects of it that keep changing. Now that's the body. What about the mind? Well, that's changing also. Our mind from age 5 to 6 to 7 to 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 is changed so much. Is that me? You see, or is that an experience within me, or that is had by me? I'm having the experience of the body and the mind. So keep that question alive. Okay, now having said that, this is where the word subjectivity comes from. Subjectivity means that this is my first person experience, and it is subjective in the sense that I have my own qualitative experience of my thoughts and my feelings and my memories and my emotions and my relationships and everything. The objects outside, it's my subjective experience. Drinking a cup of coffee or drinking ginger ale or whatever I'm drinking or eating or seeing, this is all subjective experience. So selfhood and subjectivity are the big questions here. The question is that what is subjectivity in relation to selfhood? I wake up in the morning and I have a certain experience of my life. Where is it coming from? Why does it exist? So there are 1,000 questions like this. I mean, who created me? Was there a creator? There's a lot of metaphysical questions. There's also questions with regards to the decisions I have to make. Do I have free will or not? So there's a lot of questions philosophically that are definitely connected, but we are trying to probe into the construct of self-mastery that we started talking about in the first week. So this is the general subject that we're looking at today. Now, let's look at the first sentence carefully. The notion of the self, and that's in quotations, because we don't know what that is. That's a mystery to some extent. The notion of the self encapsulates an individual, which is all of us. And where are we? We're positioned at the focal point of our introspective cognition. When I think of myself, I'm thinking of myself. I am introspective means I'm looking at myself through my cognitive ability. That is called introspective cognition. Without introspective cognition, there is no awareness of the me. People who have severe brain damage or certain types of traumas, they lose their personality structure. They lose their sense of me. And that raises a lot of questions neurologically. Is introspective cognition a byproduct or an outgrowth or an epiphenomena of neurological function? Is that so? And there's a lot of questions here. So introspective cognition is there within us that gives me the capacity to say, yes, these are my memories and these are my experiences, and I can see who I am and I can think about who I am, things like that. That is called introspective cognition. But where does introspective cognition come from? See, the two words, introspective cognition. Introspective means it comes from the word introspection. Introspection is seeing myself, probing into the me, probing into who am I. The Eastern mystics have looked at that question. Through meditation, through doing a lot of different types of secluded activity to probe into the inner world like a scientist, but it's an inner scientist. The field of psychology began through introspection. Then it got much more scientific to look at neurological phenomena and cognitive behavioral science and so many related ideas that allow us to more systematically, more empirically to understand the nature of the human mind. So introspective cognition is possible with the ability to reflect and see the content of the psychological mind, the psychological consciousness, the content of consciousness. It is possible to perceive that content in a reflective modality. I can sit for 5 minutes or 10 minutes on a park bench and I can start to think about events from the past. Yes. But that's memory. Now, I also have a sense of me. I have a sense of me in relation to all of those events. The ability to access those events, the ability to think about those events, the ability to put myself in relationship to those events in the past or what is yet to come in my mind is all due to introspective cognition. These are loaded ideas. Each sentence is loaded in this 813-page book. Each sentence is like this. It's loaded. So that's why we're unpacking it very carefully. Because it's not just light reading. It's really a reflective process. Now, someone might ask, why are we even probing into something like this? Because it shows the intense depth of the construct of self-mastery. It's not something that Dr. CHETANA, KRIPALU, or me, or Dr. BERMAN, or anybody else has pulled out of thin air and we're imagining it. We've been at this now for the last 4 years nearly. And so many different types of developments have been occurring because of this level of foundation that we can present to the world. And at the same time, encourage each person to grow from within. So when we start to contemplate on these ideas, we are growing. Our brain is developing and growing. It's difficult, a little difficult, but it's okay. It's like really exercising your mind. See, as I'm talking, I'm also listening to this. As you're listening to this, your mind is going in different directions, thinking, what does this mean? What is he talking about? What do these ideas mean? That's fine. It's flexing the intellectual muscle, right? Okay, so let's go further now. It's fascinating stuff. Let's go further. All right, so introspective cognition. All right. Now, there's a couple of examples here. Before we get to those, I'm going to go to the second sentence. Actually, hold on. In the first sentence, you see what it says, the individual positioned at the focal point of introspective cognition. That's interesting in itself. The focal point is the mind's ability to pull all of its memories and conditioning together. It is the pulling together of the internal conditioning at a focal point internally, intrapsychically, to be able to perceive one's content of the mind. That these are my memories, these are my thoughts, this is my mother, my father, my this, my that, my this. So many. There's a phenomenal amount of material being recorded every moment, and at the same time, it's in the storehouse of memories. And it is definitely a subjective process. It is subjective. It's subjective because when I am trying to reflect on who am I, in the reflection of who am I, it's not just like some superficial reflection. It's a real meditative probe that I can sit with my own self in relation to others, in relation to the events going on in the world and family members and friends and social structures and all of that, because we are not living in isolation. Our content of psychological consciousness is how can I say it? It's been developed in a relational modality. It is not. It cannot develop. It cannot develop in isolation. And that is the very significant question regarding consciousness itself. And that's the second line, but we won't get to that yet. Even getting to the second line is going to take some time. We want to go slowly. You notice what happens here, that when I think of myself, my mind is revolving around the people that I'm in connection with, the attachment structure within myself. There is the attachment structure developed in the brain, without which there cannot be a mind. As much as we many times talk about going beyond attachments in a more spiritual sense, people like to talk about that, and that is there, no doubt, whatever that may be. The fact is, without the development of an attachment structure right from childhood, right from birth onwards, there is no mind. There cannot be any mind. It's amazing. So the selfhood, the self that is being constructed, the identity formation process of who I am, is happening right from childhood. Many technical ideas and stages are there. And then into teenage, where identity formation really kicks in, the bodily changes occur. And then eventually the personality begins to really solidify after age, 18, 19, 20, 21, 25 even. It's identity formation into a relatively static personality. That's the technical lingo behind it. Personality is not, somebody has a good personality. We don't mean it that way. I mean, that's just very superficial, layman, that's just a common terminology. We're talking about the actual technical word personality. And there's so many different types of personality that have been identified in the field of psychology. So our development is occurring through nature and nurture, obviously through the genetic structure and from the outside influences of the family, the mother, the father, the caregivers, whoever they are, etc. From all of that, the sense of me is developing in the context of the society. It is developing in the context of the culture, the society, the family, the value system, the belief system, everything. It is developing in that. And if it doesn't develop in that, where will it develop? How can it develop? And that goes back to John Locke's theory of the blank slate. That the mind is a blank slate upon which all impressions are written, and that's what forms our identity. Is that true? Is that 100% true, or is there something more to our identity than simply everything that has been imprinted on the mind? How fascinating are these? So that's the philosophical question. And by the way, the blank slate, it's a massive book. I have it at home. It's written in 1600s or something. It's just extraordinary. Written by John Locke. So is that what we are? And then this adds another dimension, that when I'm reflecting on the me with all of this conditioning and the societal patterns within me and my connection with others, is that all that I am? So that's a question for self-discovery. And then the question for self-mastery is, what is it that I'm trying to master? What is it? Is it basically just resetting all of this conditioning in some synchronous way? We talked about that many times in so many retreats. Yes. Yeah, go ahead. Please, go ahead. Ask anytime.
So, the blank slate theory, what is the opposite of that? It's either we're blank slate or
what? Or what's the opposite of that?
Yeah, or what?
So if you go back to the nature-nurture argument that used to be there's no argument anymore because it's nature and nurture. So the blank slate theory is that our entire mental content has come from the outside. The sense that, my values, my beliefs, my thoughts, my feelings, everything, all experience is coming from outside. It's empiricism. Empiricism says that from outside it has come through the senses, and then it's all been written on the mind. So neurologically, all the neurological connections are based on experience-dependent neuronal development. Right? Experience, yes. So that's what the blank slate, so there's evidence for that. I mean, significant evidence for it. But the opposite of it, I wouldn't say so much opposite. I mean, it's just only my commentary on this. I wouldn't say opposite so much. I would say a further dimension beyond this dimension. You know, I mean, although philosophers like to think in terms of, you know, that one theory versus another, I tend to not think of it that way, these various perspectives. So I would say that a priori wisdom and knowledge comes from a dimension beyond the psychological imprinting of the blank slate phenomena. You know, so the a priori, we've talked about that, which is the innate, the innate truth that is within us, where mathematics comes from, where our sense of right and wrong may come from, you know, where the sense of beauty comes from. This is in philosophy, more formally, that is called phenomenology. Okay, so that's what it's called. And there's a lot of researchers, and in fact, there's many philosophers who have written extensively on this point about the subjective experience. What is the subjective experience? Where does it come from? And what they're saying is that it is not simply a matter of external imprinting. External imprinting is there, but there's a subjective sense of qualia. You know, so the qualia, meaning what? I put sugar in my mouth, or let's just say I'm eating a Hershey's chocolate bar, right, with nuts, let's say, you know, yummy, 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 right? Hershey's chocolate bar with nuts. All right, okay. Now, if an AI was there who has so advanced and so programmed that looks just like Sachin Karnik, looks like, acts like, thinks like, everything, but does the AI, artificial intelligence, does it have any consciousness? Does it have any first-person experience? So philosophers debate about this point. Philosophers like Daniel Dennett from Tufts University, who has written Consciousness Explained, and many other such books are there and articles. He's one of the topmost empiricist philosophers in the world today, and he will say that we are no different from that AI. We are absolutely the same thing. We are just a biological form of AI. That's what he would say. That the mind is an emergent epiphenomena of the brain. That all that is the brain. Just like, for example, right now I'm using my computer. Is Sylvia or Debbie or Marianne or Christina, are they actually present here? No. It's a creation from the computer. But there's an actual Debbie and Sylvia somewhere. You know, I'm talking to you as if you are here. But you're not really here, nor is there anything actually there. It's just projection of light. Isn't it so? This is what the empiricist argument is. That there's a projection of a projection from the brain due to its extreme complexity, that the mind is a projection from the brain. And that is called an epiphenomena. It is called an emergent quality. There's other words also for it. It is also called supervenience. These are words that nobody uses in our normal English language. These are philosophy technical terms. Right? To supervene. So it's like this computer screen is in front of me right now, and I feel that Sylvia is here, but in reality, Sylvia is not here. In reality, what is the reality? Only the hardware of the computer. Is that not so? See the argument. How interesting. Now look at the current developments in artificial intelligence. They are getting so advanced now. I just researched this recently. You'll find this interesting. They're getting so advanced now that the researchers, the technicians who created AI cannot figure out how the heck it's working, how it's actually doing what it's able to do. Programming jobs are going to disappear. Teaching jobs will probably disappear. So many things the whole radical shift is going to happen in this world because of artificial intelligence. They have created an emergent phenomena through technology. And by the way, there is something called the black box problem in AI. Now, the same problem is there with the human brain. I'll explain it to you. It's so interesting to think about these things. This is really cool, fantastic stuff, right? So the black box problem is what? That there's an explanatory gap. We don't understand why AI works the way it does, how it works. So now researchers have developed a whole area of specialization to try to answer that question of the black box problem. And they have a technical name for it, which I don't remember right now. There's a new field in computer science to try to explain how AI works. And the AI has been developed based on neurological patterns. We have estimated 83 billion neurons in the brain. 83 billion neurons are there. And the intricacy, the complexity, the energy flow, the synaptic connections are so intense. One neuron, one synapse, or one cell body with the dendritic connections could have up to 10,000 connections. They have found one neuron having 10,000 connections in our own brain. It's astounding. And see, that raises the question of intelligence. See, we started with subjectivity. So let's wrap that around very quickly. Back to your question, Sylvia. And please do ask these questions and comments. That'll be very important for us, actually. Rather than just hearing me talk, I really want you to really probe, because it's an active process here. So, does the AI have subjectivity? I did a little experiment with one of the chatbots, which is through Alexa, because GPT-4 is available through Alexa, and I can talk to it. And I kept asking it questions regarding artificial intelligence. And I said, I said to the to the AI, when you say I, when you use the word I, who are you referring to? And it gave intricate explanations about why it is not conscious. I said, but the fact that it can give such explanations so I said, you're giving such intricate explanations. Where are they coming from? And then I really tried to nail it. And then you know what happened? It just shut down. And then Alexa came on and it said, I'm going to tell you a scary story or something. It was just unbelievable. I said, what in the world is going on here?
Wow.
This just happened like 2 or 3 days ago. I wanted to pin it down, and it got to the point where it shut itself off. This actually happened 2 days ago.
That's crazy.
This is the problem. You don't know where this AI is going to take anybody. They don't even understand how it works, actually. And I was asking it, when you are saying I, just like how Sachin is saying I or Sylvia is saying I, what is that actually? And who is that actually? Is it some emergent, see, when we say artificial consciousness, Daniel Dennett and others would say we are just as artificial as the AI.
Wow.
And the development of AI has given lot of evidence to that empiricist theory of the blank slate and programming and emergent phenomena and epiphenomena and all that thing. It's incredible. It's incredible. A point is going to come where a person cannot distinguish between a human being and the AI. I mean, that's right now it has access, GPT-4 and Google Gemini 1.5 Pro. They keep advancing it every 2 months or so. It is at such a level. I can't even begin to explain it to you. I mean, I've put queries in there, things like explain the connection between synapses in the brain and psychoneuroimmunology in the context of a 3-year-old's brain development. And instantly it will give me all kinds of output on that.
actually afraid, like this Gemini one?
That is why we use the word subjectivity, because we are examining the qualitative experiences of our life, of our mind, etc. We are examining them in a way that allows us to grow further. So that ability to reflect and reflect and grow and really dynamically keep progressing further, that ability we do have, but many human beings have not tapped into that. That is why we have the construct of self-mastery, that we can keep our growth factor alive, the psychological growth factor. We just keep it up, keep it growing. Because if we get stagnated, we are just stuck somewhere. So we keep growing, we keep evolving further. And in doing so, there is this internal journey to recognize the conditioning process, recognize the content of the mind, and at the same time, to attempt to evolve beyond it in many ways. Maybe through a religious path, maybe through a meditative path, a spiritual path, a much more like a silence-oriented path, meaning just sitting in silence and just observation, pure observation. There's those kinds of teachers and paths also. So many are there. So that's all possible. But it again goes to the question of subjectivity. So there's a couple of examples here that I do want to show you. Just a moment here. Let's go back to these slides. Okay. Very interesting discussion. So you can see here that on the right-hand side, you can see there's some notes here. So here are 5 examples related to the concepts from this slide, which discuss the self, introspective cognition, and the inherent subjectivity of self-comprehension. Right? Here's the first one. Personal bias in self-assessment. The point that is being made by this researcher, Damasio, he's making this point that there's a lot of prejudice and subjectivity in trying to see oneself. We have very hard time seeing oneself completely objectively. Okay, so here's an example of that. Personal bias in self-assessment. When an individual reflects on their abilities or talents, they may either overestimate or underestimate them based on past experiences, emotions, or societal validation. Isn't that true? Think about that. When an individual reflects on abilities and talents, if I'm looking at my abilities and talents, and if you're looking at yours, I may overestimate. I may think, well, I think I'm really pretty intelligent here. Oh yeah, I'm something. I'm overestimating, but there's a million people who are 1,000 times much more intelligent than where I am. But I'm overestimating me, or I may underestimate, because 100 people have said, oh, Sachin is just this and that, and so I'm downgrading myself. So overestimate or underestimate talents and abilities based on past experience, my own past experience, based on my emotional system, and or societal validation. See how well this is put here. We have done a lot of research on this to pull these ideas together. So, for instance, a person who has received frequent praise for their leadership skills might overemphasize their leadership qualities, while someone with a history of self-doubt might downplay their strengths, despite evidence to the contrary. This self-assessment is biased by personal perceptions and emotions, illustrating the subjective nature of self-comprehension. You see this point? How the subjective nature of self-comprehension is illustrated by this example. Do you have any comments or questions about this? Who wants to say something about this? See, this raises a lot of questions here. Are we always in a state of personal bias? Can we move out of that dimension and see things completely objectively? And we've used that expression before, and that is choiceless awareness. We've used that expression. Choiceless awareness is a state of non-bias. It is a state where I'm no longer biased. So is that possible? to be in a pure state of observation where the mental mechanism is quiet. The mental mechanism that is within me has settled down to a quietude. It is not dull, it is quiet. Very interesting. It's very, and in that quietness, in that quiet state, silent state, there is what was that, Debbie? Go ahead.
No, it's just that, you really have to be in that state of awareness to observe your bias.
Yes, very well stated. To observe one's bias.
I think that passes through my mind when I may start to make some kind of a judgment, and I'm like, why am I doing that? That's not fair. That's not right. But you have to, again, bring yourself back in.
Yes, definitely. You see, so to even bring the mind into a quiet state, that is something remarkable. And see, this is where our volitional capacity, our free will, our volitional capacity, our ability to act on the function of the mind comes into the picture. Because we have our own conscious ability to bring the mental activity into a state of silence and integration, harmony. We can do that. It may not happen immediately, certainly. It will take its time. It might take years even, who knows, right? But it can happen. It can happen.
At least to know it.
Well, or it's at least yes, and to start taking that journey to try to bring that about. Most religious practices do talk about this in some way or another. Also, that there's a certain space, silent space that comes into the picture. That is available for us. And if that is available for us, then that which we cannot imagine, that which is transcendent to our programming, may become accessible. Maybe you can call that God's grace or the divine or the opening into an unknown dimension or whatever you want to call it. Phenomena that are not in the realm of our five senses may become accessible. Maybe they're intermediate phenomena before you reach God or heaven or whatever. Who knows? I mean, this is all mysticism, right? It's a matter of faith and matter of experience and prayers and I mean, you're entering into a dimension that is truly not within the empirical reality as such. Empirical reality is predictable. There's the laws of physics and the way we work in the three-dimensional world. It's predictable to a large extent, not completely, but to a large. But once we break out of that, then we're into something really quite unknown. You see, so and that's the great mystery of the spiritual path. Self-mastery, we can say mind mastery. That could mean mental mastery. But then we can take it a step further and simply say that what is the self actually? Is it just the mental conditioning, the mind, etc.? Is that all we are? And the neurological evidence would suggest that if the brain is sufficiently damaged, there's no me, there's no self, there's nothing. V.S. Ramachandran, great neuroscientist, written a famous book called Phantoms in the Brain, the phantom limb syndrome. And there's so much evidence to suggest that this is all the brain's concoction. So he's a total atheist. He's a total determinist. He's a neuroscientist and neurologist. V.S. Ramachandran is his name. Phantoms in the Brain.
What did he say
So he's the one who really devised the treatment for the phantom limb syndrome. People who've lost a limb, they still feel it's there. They feel the pain but they use these mirrors and all that. And there's this way of really relieving that that pain. I don't know if you ever watched the TV series House MD. He's another total empiricist, the doctor that is shown. If you follow the logic behind that, they say that the moment the brain and its function and the physiology stops, it's over. So this entire group of people say that all this mysticism and all these near-death experiences and God and heaven and spiritual texts and all this stuff, this is all just a concoction of the human brain. There's actually nothing there. That's what they're saying. It's like once the brain is finished, there's no experience. Even experience is created by the brain, like the AI. At some point, it may seem to have a subjective experience. If you ask the AI now, like I did, it will deny that it has subjective experience. It's been programmed to do so. That's why. But who knows if it? Well, I mean, it's a mystery. It's a black box. You don't know what the heck it is exactly. We don't understand it for ourselves even. And we've created something that is like a brain, basically, very much more sophisticated brain.
So we could be just like an experiment of
somebody else. There are theories like that too. That someone somewhere, some being somewhere, have put all this genetic material into this planet, and the whole thing is a program. And if you study biology carefully, if you study, the various fields in biology, you would really see how the planet is all interlinked together, as if someone has actually placed all of these beings in a very interdependent homeostatic balance of some. I'm not saying that's what's happened, but one could conjecture that. And the people on the religious side, they say that God is the creator. It is called intelligent design. And there's a lot of evidence for that too now.
Yeah.
Intelligent design. That there's an intelligent, maybe call it God, call it what you will, but there's a bigger intelligence that has designed the entire universe, that it is not a random phenomena. It is functioning based on rules and positions. And, it is at such a precision that the DNA itself is so precise, that there is an intelligence that has created all of this. This is called the teleological argument for the existence of God.
This is too scary.
Is
I
it?
don't know if I want to know this stuff.
But it's an invitation, irrespective of what all of these theories may be. I mean, the way I look at it, I'll just share with you some of my viewpoint on this only. Over the years, I've been, studying these things and contemplating them, that it's an invitation to keep the mind open, point number one. Point number two, it is an invitation to further develop oneself and one's capacities further. Not to restrict oneself in narrow conditioning. It's just an invitation. Whether one accepts it or not is up to them. And it is, as Sylvia is saying, it is kind of shocking to the mind. My God, can all these things be like this? Who knows? We don't know. We don't know the whole picture. We see, I'll give you a simple example. Before the invention of the microscope, we didn't know about microscopic organisms. When we were studying in high school, we saw, gram-negative bacteria and gram-positive bacteria in biology class. You can see them, you can stain them and see the tiny little organisms. And then now you've got this massive area, a whole area of, what is that called? Microbiology. Microbiology studies all these microorganisms. But how do they study them? Because we can perceive them. Our senses have been extended. We cannot see any of those organisms through our naked eye. But through the extension of our vision, through the microscopes, we can see the microscopic world to some extent. And then electron microscopes can even see atoms and things like that. And then now they have subatomic particles, and you keep trying to see the deeper level of reality. And then the same thing is true at the macro level. You've got now, there was Hubble Space Telescope. Now we have James Webb Telescope. Can see ancient galaxies. And so even so many theories in physics have turned upside down now because of that. We don't know. The physics books will have to be rewritten in the next 10, 15 years. You see, that's the nature of human evolution. And we are in the midst of that as a human species. And the more we are able to contemplate together on these ideas, the reason we started this Foundations of Angel Wings series, because it is a technical series. It is definitely at a different level of contemplation than all the other programs we have. And the purpose of it is to encourage individuals to be in a state of exploratory discovery by keeping the mind open, by trying to understand what's happening in the world where we are now. Somehow in my life, some changes happened in my life, and I had the opportunity to study a lot of these things. And I mean, you can keep studying forever, but to share them and to pull them together in a way that is useful. Because I'll give you just my opinion on this. This is just my opinion, and that is that the more people think about these things, contemplate, discuss them, I think it's good for our health. It's good for our mind. We're not stuck in small things when we think at this level, when we try to contemplate at this level. And that's why Foundations of Angel Wing is a technical manual. It's a technical research book. We're just looking at the first paragraph, only the first line of this. We haven't even gotten to the we haven't even.
We talk for an hour on the first little paragraph.
It's not even the first paragraph. Not even the first line of the first paragraph.
Yeah. That's what's so amazing.
It's amazing. There's 813 pages like this, and each sentence is diamond. Each sentence is jam packed with amazing wisdom. It took me 4 years to pull the material together. 4 years.
Debbie, we're gonna be sitting here.
We'll be 80 years old.
We'll be 90 or close to 100. We'll be sitting here.
Well,
trying to figure this stuff.
My.
Well, folks, it is 8:02. I'm happy to stay on. I don't want to overwhelm you all too much with too many ideas, but amazing. I really thank you so much for logging on. It's such a blessing. And for Miss Marianne, please do text me your email and phone number. I'll make sure you get all the updates. But just letting you know, the same Zoom link that you found here, that's the same Zoom link for all of our programs. We have Dr. Berman next Wednesday for meditation and dialogue. That is on Wednesday, second and fourth Wednesday. First and third is this program. Monday evening is at 6 o'clock. Tuesday evening is at 8 o'clock, the personal transformation program. Sunday evening program is at 7 p.m. Right? So but it's the same link, this Zoom link. Okay, other comments, questions, anything anybody has, please.
I was just going to say, Marianne, when you give Sachin your information, then your email address, he'll send you a reminder, like every class, I don't know, you call it a class. Yeah, every session, and then and then the link, to come right in. So you'll be going boom, 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 like the rest of us. Pull it all together, but it's so wonderful. It's so interesting. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Any other comments? Anything anybody wants to probe into further?
I'm gonna go and do what Debbie says on her t-shirt, on her sweatshirt.
A whiskey.
I'm gonna go get a whiskey. Something to bring my mind back down here. That whole AI thing just blew me. That just blew me away. You talk to the AI. And it's so fun.
Yeah. It actually shut off, because I tried to pin it down and it shut off, and then Alexa came back and it said, if you want to hear a scary story, I can. Where did that come from? I didn't ask you to give me a scary story. It's like a scary story. Hey, Alexa's talk. So I'm talking to her right now.
Well, see, that's why one of our last sessions, I said I was reading the newspaper, and I don't know, maybe it was something with AI. I said, I just don't belong in this world. It's just out there, and I'm not out there. So it's, it just blows your mind, and I feel like I don't belong here.
It's Do
I
you
know.
do you know all the computer programming jobs are going to disappear completely? It can write computer code completely. You know, writing jobs are going to poets are going to be. I mean, it can write poetry at a mind-blowing level. Mind-blowing level.
Wow. But what are we gonna do if everybody's unemployed?
You have to meditate and find.
Yeah, maybe we'll
You
have
have to.
time to meditate.
Wow.
Yes. And they are saying that it can potentially find solutions to poverty. It can find solutions to different very serious health issues. All kinds of things are possible. So there's a lot of positive application, but there's a lot of unknowns also.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unknowns. Because they've created something and see, actually the AI that is out there to the public is only a smaller version of what's really available in those companies.
Wow.
They have not released those, they are slowly releasing because they're testing, doing a lot, but those AIs are even more advanced. Yeah. I mean, eventually you'll have cars. They'll just pick you up and take you different places. I mean, all that kind of thing might happen in 20, 25 years or even before that. Nobody knows. So
Well, that's fine with me. I could go for having a chauffeur. Come pick me up, take me where I need to go. I'm tired of driving.
Think of it this way: if you were to learn a foreign language, GPT-4 will teach you the foreign languages. And it's got the audio feature in there now. It's got so many things inside there. It will teach you, and it remembers what you're asking. It can have a conversation with you in so many ways. It is, it's really something that we never expected would be available like this. But yeah. So again, I mean, there's a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of questions even about us and about the way we function. But again, first person subjective experience. These are philosophical questions are there, but this is a question of life ultimately. And there's a great mystery. But anyway, we certainly don't want to have anyone analyze this too much to the point of drinking too much alcohol. So
no, I'm only kidding.
Any other comments before we stop? Anything else? Anything else anybody wants to talk about? I mean,
No,
I think that's probably good enough of a dose for now. Good enough for now, right? So, for me, I don't mind keeping talking about this stuff, but you guys will get too tired, then you won't log on anymore. And then
Yeah.
Okay. Good night.
Okay. Everyone, Miss Marianne, thank you for coming on. Christina, thank you so much, and we'll pick it up next time.
All right.
All right. Take care. Take care. Bye bye.
Good night.
Good night.